Something to look into. I'm stoked. I do kind of want to get into the blockchain thing because over the last like year or so, like we this show kind of built up like a relationship with Allie, and we were getting ready to have her on, and then January happened, and it was like, okay, well, yeah, no, that's not, yeah, no, because you're on Rockfin. I'm like, we're on 8 other platforms too. There's I you can talk to me in private, okay, but I know the stuff that you have to say. The audience doesn't. It was for their benefit that we wanted to have the conversation anyway. Maybe someday, maybe someday. um I don't harbor any ill will towards anyone who wants to plant their flag on blockchain evil. I don't. I want to make that perfectly clear.
I mean, I don't
That,
like
like,
blockchain.
huh?
I don't like blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the but because it's a thing, it's not good or evil. The people who use it can be good or evil, but the thing itself is just a thing as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm.
And I would much rather see someone like Sleepy Josh or Derrick or Allie in charge of, how this technology is used, or then, for example, Eric Schmidt, you know. Um, but I listened to I listened to a good chunk of the first day of the summit. I ran out of time to get through the whole 10 hours of the weekend. Um, and there's a lot of good concepts that were thrown around in there. And if you could, Derek, just kind of like walk us through the positive argument for blockchain, and maybe we'll just play devil's advocate for a minute.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. So I guess I'll provide a little bit of background too for those who might not be aware. I mean, I think anybody paying attention might recognize that there's been some in the last few weeks or month, but really larger picture last couple of years, some contention among the various like freedom movements, and I'll use that generally, a lot of intersecting movements, but between people who see the benefits or the potential benefits of blockchain and crypto. And I do want to establish that too, that blockchain and crypto are not the same thing, that crypto works on blockchain, but they're not, we have to be able to separate that. That's sort of one of the problems in this conversation that I've noticed, is that there's a lot of people who have concerns and fears about blockchain, some that I consider legitimate that I also share, but I notice that there's a lack of understanding. Like they're just kind of like, Bitcoin and blockchain, like that's a single entity or a thing, or like, oh, blockchain is just one thing and they're all the same. They don't understand that there's thousands of blockchain projects. And like you said, it's very dependent on the developers. If it's a freaking Bill Gates, Google blockchain, I'm not trusting it. If it's some like, anarchist, crypto anarchist developer who's like, we're building this to make the government and corporations irrelevant, then maybe we should look in that direction and see what they've got going on. There's definitely differences in what's going on there. But so this kind of division has been brewing, and I will say that unfortunately, Allison McDowell, for those who are not aware, she did stoke some of the flames more recently. Like I actually communicated with her as well, like on a friendly basis. We have both have a support of John Trudell and a love for his work, native radical activist. And she actually had agreed to be on my documentary, The Pyramid of Power. And so everything was cool. And then like a couple of weeks ago, I got a message from one of my followers who I guess follows her work as well. I was like, hey, I think you should probably go respond to this. And he sent me a link, and I tried to open it, and it's like, you can't see this. And I said, okay, that's weird. And then I realized me and pretty much everybody associated with the Freedom Cell Network had been blocked by Allison, and she just decided to like block us. And she did so while at the same time kind of publicly misrepresenting my work. And so I don't want to make this about me, but she basically used blockchain to misrepresent my work and say the Freedom Cell Network was a blockchain project. And since she has a very much anti-blockchain blanket view, like, if you're associated with blockchain, like you're saying, like, all right, that's it, that's my line in the sand. So she was trying to insinuate, look, don't join this project, which is bringing thousands of people together around the world. And there's no blockchain or crypto requirement. Like I said, it's a decentralized concept. But again, because of the lack of understanding, people are like, oh, look, they're involved in blockchain. They must be, evil or bad or whatever the thing is. And so she just kind of made a bunch of posts on Facebook and social media. And the point is that kind of opened up the floodgates for this division of people who are anti-blockchain coming to either attack my pages or email me nice things, and people who felt the opposite maybe coming to her page. And unfortunately, I would say that from my perspective on this quote unquote side of things, because I don't want there to be a false division, but that's what some people are painting it as. On the, let's say, open to blockchain side of things, we are not the ones saying, let's not have discussion. We invited Allison to participate at the D3 Summit. We've invited her to participate at the Greater Reset Summit because we think it would be to the benefit of the community if we have this discussion. Like you were saying, Steve, like, let's not have a debate, but let's have a discussion. Let's go through this, Allison. Let's let you represent your important work in this area. And we'll even bring up our own concerns. I've written articles in the last month for The Last American Vagabond about the dangers of smart cities and blockchains. And I did one a week ago about, can we unite the pro and anti-blockchain crowd? So we've covered extensively the problems, but I think that some folks are just kind of having a very black and white view, and it's just like, that's all there is. There's, anything associated with blockchain is clearly New World Order, World Economic Forum, Great Reset. So anybody associated with that is not on our side. And it's unfortunate, but that's kind of how things have been. So to get to what you're saying, the reality is that blockchain is a digital ledger, which means it can store information. That's really what, like, the most basic way to think about it, right? And the most kind of common form that people understand it is with cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin. So in that case, this digital ledger transmits and records information in the form of currency exchanges. So I send you money and that's recorded on the blockchain. But the blockchain could also record, your wedding license, your death certificate, your birth certificate. You could put any document there. The idea is that there's even a project called Bit Congress that I think could potentially be possible if there was a way to fix the system. This might be it. It basically eliminates the need for Congress. You reduce the politicians greatly, and you use a blockchain to vote on, and that means that nobody can alter it, nobody can change it, no voting machine, whatever concerns. So there's a lot of ways that it could be applicable in good ways. There's also a lot of really scary ways that are being promoted for it to be used. I mean, the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset, they literally want all of our lives to be on the blockchain. They want all of your digital health records, everything you do. They want food to be put on the blockchain from the moment seed is planted to the moment it's delivered at the store. And again, you can think of really positive use cases, like this might be helpful to store this information this and that way. But the difference between, this is where we get into the difference of, so blockchain is just a general tool, again, can be used for good or bad, depending on the creator and the intentions they do. Now, when it comes to cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Monero, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, there's a distinction between like the word crypto is very important. It's not, it signifies cryptography, the math behind it, the algorithms, but also it comes from the cypherpunk crypto anarchist movements of the 80s and the 90s. Like these people were the first people who saw the internet coming and were like, we need to make sure the internet stays free. We need to make sure it stays decentralized. Unfortunately, we mostly use a centralized internet. The World Wide Web is a centralized internet. There's now people working on alternatives and things like that. But so this movement was really born out of like the people who wanted to disrupt this space. They wanted to disrupt the financial system. And unfortunately now when you look at the crypto space, and I've been reporting on it and covering it. I started getting paid in Bitcoin in 2012 as a journalist. It was just, I was living that way, but I had to sell it all to pay rent and all those kinds of things. But I started seeing back then that they're in the crypto space. You have people who want government regulation because they think it'll make crypto legitimate. They want to work with the World Economic Forum. They want to work with the Rockefeller Foundation, the Gates. Like these people kind of see working in the mainstream as making a crypto like a legitimate, thing. And then you have the other side of the community that's like, hell no, let's make it totally like free, untraceable, private, decentralized. Like let's disrupt the Federal Reserve System, the banking system. And that's kind of
where we fall on that.
And that's where I come from. Like, so that's what I'm saying. So like but I will say, unfortunately, that portion of the crypto space has shrunk greatly because there are so many people that, like me and my partner, our families have contacted us in the last month. Hey guys, can you help us get involved in crypto? Because even our normie parents are hearing about it, right? But all they hear is, oh, you might make money. They don't hear that this is a potentially disruptive tool that could end the banking system and the corporations. No. So most of the people that are flooding into the space are just coming in because they think it's a chance to make money. And that is true. You do, like, I'm going to be using my crypto gains to buy this piece of land. Like, and I think that's a positive gain. Like, I'm going to use that to go off the grid. I don't see how that's a bad thing. But I do think that there are lots of questions. There's people who are associated with some of the bigger crypto companies that do have influence, even though it's a decentralized space, that are associated with the Bilderberg Group, that are associated with the World Economic Forum. A lot of the
Elon Musk.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the big projects, like I mean, this is why I don't use Coinbase.
Snoop Dogg, who has a fucking weed partnership with American for Prosperity and the fucking Koch brothers.
I mean, it's only inevitable that they will use celebrities and influencers to try to promote it as well. So, I mean, I guess the kind of main point here is, and I'd love for you guys to play some devil's advocate, is that not all crypto projects are equal. So again, to speak it as this sort of like monolithic crypto, and that means that Bitcoin to Monero, those are two completely different projects, two completely different blockchains with two different protocols, privacy settings, etc. So to speak like of the crypto space in this kind of singular entity is incorrect. To speak of blockchain as a singular entity is incorrect, because the blockchain that Rockfin runs is on Ethereum. That's different than the one that Monero runs on. That is very privacy based. There are concerns with a lot of these projects, as I said, and I've written about this. We can talk about that all day, but I just think, unfortunately, some of the folks on the anti side, that they're not looking at it with nuance. They see the problems, but then they kind of have a blanket, like, that means it's all bad. And so they don't want to associate. In this case, Allison and others are just sort of like drawing that line in the sand. Like, hey, if you associate with blockchain or crypto in any way, even if you're not, because I don't think it's the perfect panacea. Like, I hold crypto, I hold a little silver. I also hold seeds because that's my favorite currency. I don't think it's going to be the one tool that's going to disrupt. And I can honestly say that I have less faith that it will be a disruptive tool than I did 8-9 years ago when I first heard about it. I was like, holy shit, this might end the banks. This could be something. I have less faith